So I've been watching this anime called Brain, the Puzzle of God, and I ended up finishing and really enjoying the anime a lot. And one thing that really surprised me was that nobody has even heard of this show, let alone watched it. And unlike the other anime video I did, it isn't because this is about mahjong either. So why does anybody like this anime? Alright, I'm sure every single one of you are wondering what this anime is and what it's about, so let me tell you a little bit about it. So Brain, the Puzzle of God is an anime that released in 2011 and ran for 3 seasons that I will talk about more in detail later. 2 of the seasons were aired in the US and dubbed, while the last season never got that treatment and can only be viewed with subtitles, unless you speak Japanese. This could also be why a lot of people never heard of this anime, but I'll talk about that later too. So Brain, the Puzzle of God is an anime about solving puzzles. Who would have thought? The main character is named Kaito Diamond, and shocker, he's really good at solving puzzles. In the first episode, the first thing you're greeted with is a life-threatening labyrinth of a puzzle that the main character is in the middle of going through. He ends up saving this guy's life, who later takes all the credit for solving the puzzle. I'm not going to spoil this anime, by the way, but like, come on, I gotta talk about the first episode, give me a break. Later, we end up meeting one of the other main characters named Nonoha. She's Kaito's friend, and also a tsundere who has photographic memory and is also the most talented athlete in the entire school, which is slightly important sometimes. Later in the first episode, Kaito meets this dude referred to as upperclassman Jikukawa. Kaito also ends up getting invited to another deadly philosopher's puzzle by the Minotaur dude, with the reward being the Orpheus ring. Kaito and Nonoha end up going and solving the puzzle, but once Kaito gets the Orpheus ring, it attaches to his body and they get trapped. But Kaito activates his new powers and says he solved the puzzle to get out. So that was the first episode, and don't worry, I'm not just gonna keep telling you what happens in the anime. I just want to give you guys a short summary of what the anime is about, and the first episode does a really good job at that. But believe it or not, there's a lot more to this anime than the first episode. So getting back to the anime, let me tell you what a Brain is exactly. So a Brain in the show is what they call someone who's smart enough to potentially be able to participate in the Puzzle of God, which is the other part of the title. The Puzzle of God is a puzzle that can only be solved by 2 Brains at once in a battle, and the winner of the Puzzle of God pretty much just gets God mode powers. But the problem is, the Puzzle of God has never been solved as far as anyone knows, which is the overarching plot of the anime. It's kind of a simple plot at first, and it's kind of funny thinking about a world where everyone revolves around puzzles, but it's definitely a good idea for an anime, and it undeniably works. The organization who made the Deadly Philosopher's Puzzles is called POG, and no, I'm not joking. It stands for both the Puzzle of God and for how I felt watching the anime most of the time. But POG makes these puzzles to try and test/create Brains from the Brain children, as they call it. The other Brain children end up being main characters that you meet soon after the first episode. One is named Cubic, who's both a middle schooler and low-key annoying, but that's a combo that's hard to avoid, to be fair. He also has a robot and ends up getting way more likable as the show goes on too. The other Brain child is a femboy named Anna. He's an artist and he's also pretty good at most puzzles and is always hanging out with animals of some kind, so that's what's up. Later, the other main character, Gammon, shows up, and he's not technically a Brain, but his skills definitely rival Kaito's at the very least. But these are the main characters for the most part, with a lot of other supporting roles in the show as well. The characters in the show are surprisingly unique and all work really well together. Some of them can seem annoying at first, but as the show goes on, all the characters get more and more depth, and it only gets better the more you watch. Though every time Anna says I, he has to say his name after it, and there were a few times in season 2 where he said it one too many times.
From the bottom of my heart, I hate you!
Anna will get one too!
Anyway, now that we've looked at the main characters, I think it's time we look at one of the most important things in the entire show. The puzzles. But before we do that, I think it's time we take a look at today's video sponsor. Today's video sponsor is my own YouTube channel. I'm gonna make some more anime videos whether you like this one or not, so please subscribe and I'll love you forever. So obviously with the title of the anime being Brain, the Puzzle of God, there's going to be a lot of puzzles. This isn't really a spoiler, but they don't pull up to the Puzzle of God on episode 2, they have a few other puzzles they gotta do in between. In the early part of season 1, the plot was very episodic with most puzzles being solved in one episode. And surprisingly, most of these puzzles were really entertaining to watch. One thing that helps this anime be more engaging though is like Kaji and a lot of other good anime, the stakes are always really high. So pretty much every puzzle in this anime is threatening somebody's life or something equally important. But all the puzzles are different, and luckily the anime actually named most of the different types of puzzles, which is good. Obviously there's the Puzzle of God itself, but you gotta watch the anime if you want to see that. There's also other types of puzzles ranging from small handheld ones passed around at school to more puzzles that threaten your life along with the lives of everyone you know and love. As far as the small solvable ones passed around by the students go, it's mostly just Sudoku puzzles that are cleverly made so the characters can correct the puzzles and make it harder, which I think is really cool.
Shall I change things up?
Class president!
Jikukawa!
There.
This is beautiful.
There are some more small ones that show up a few times, but they're the kind you wouldn't be able to solve without holding anyway, so there isn't really anything to comment on that. But the Philosopher's puzzles are the most entertaining to watch, which are the puzzles made by the POG in order to either kill or create the Phi Brains, depending on who's running the puzzle. One of my favorites from early in the first season was a car puzzle where Gammon, Kaito, and Nonoha were together. Gammon ended up solving it, but the giver didn't like that Gammon solved it instead of Kaito, so he locked the doors and made the puzzle impossible to solve. Another thing this show is really good about too is showing you the puzzle clearly along with how the characters are solving it instead of just relying on you to assume that the puzzle they're facing is hard. In this puzzle they showed the layout of the cars on screen and how there was no way for them to get out, so they all died and the anime ended. Nah, I'm just joking. Kaito's Orpheus ring activated, and he ended up finding a crazy solution to the puzzle where he rammed the car they were in out of harm's way with another car. This was one of those one-episode puzzles that went by pretty quickly, but it was really entertaining to watch and a good example of how creative some of the puzzles can be. There are also some puzzles called Fool's Puzzles though, where there is no reward at the end and the point is just to kill whatever Phi Brain is solving them. These puzzles are much more intense and are usually strange, crazy obstacle course layouts filled with death traps, and while there isn't always a ton of straight up puzzles in these, there is definitely a lot of action, which people who watch anime like, right? So that's enough about puzzles. I don't want to just give away everything great about this anime, so let's talk about the villains. There are surprisingly a lot of evil bad guys in this anime, and again, I'm not going to spoil the anime, but sometimes the line between bad and good guy is also blurred. Obviously, I'm only going to be showing you the bad guys that are non-spoilery, but be warned, this anime is well written. So the POG are pretty much the bad guys of season 1, since Kaito's mindset is, yo, how about we don't make puzzles that kill people? That's bad. While the POG are just trying to find a Phi Brain suited for the puzzle of God. One of the first villains you end up running into is named Herbert. Herbert is kind of the Orochimaru of this anime if you're catching my drift. He is a big threat and be sabotaging puzzles, but he isn't the most important of the villains. There's also these group of 3 POG members that end up trying to defeat the good guys at one point or another. Their names are Funga, Maze, and Dice Man. No, they do not have last names, and no, there is no more information on whether or not these could be nicknames or not. Surprisingly, Dice Man does dice-related puzzles. Huh. Maze did a maze-related puzzle at least once, and Funga tried to kill a child with a tank. There's also this dude named Bishop, who's the right-hand man to the leader of the POG, named Rook. With both of their names being chess pieces, I assumed we'd run into a king or queen, but nah, the best we get is a Count Pythagoras, which is unfortunate. Rook is one of my favorite characters in the whole show. He's a Phi Brain child also, and him and Kaito were friends when they were little kids and solved puzzles together. The storyline between Rook and Kaito is really good, but I'm not gonna spoil it. Bishop, like I said, is pretty much just Rook's right-hand man, but he's still very skilled at puzzles and is a threat for sure. There are more bad guys that show up from the later seasons too, like Free Cell, who showed up in season 2 and is very scary, and Ratziel from season 3, who is a really interesting villain, but I can't get into her without spoiling everything, so just take my word for it. So now that you guys have seen a lot of what this show has to offer, I really hope you all go check it out for yourselves, because it's a really good anime that I really liked a lot. But before we do that, I think we need to look at why more people didn't watch this anime in the first place. I could totally understand a puzzle-themed anime flopping just because it seems weird, but after watching it myself, I thought it was ridiculous how little praise this anime had. If you look up the anime on Reddit, there is a singular post from a few years ago asking if there is a dub for the 3rd season, with 1 upvote and 0 comments. If you're watching this, bro, I'm sorry to tell you, but there is no dub for the 3rd season. Which, like I said earlier, could be part of the reason more people didn't watch it, but I don't think that can be the case considering how many subbed anime are mainstream now. I did some research and found out that outside of Japan, Phi Brain aired on something called the Anime Network, which is a channel ran in Canada and the UK as well as on-demand service in North America. But the channel actually discontinued before the anime was made, meaning you could only watch it on demand. And only the first 2 seasons in English at that. Honestly, that's really unfortunate because I feel like if this anime ran on Toonami along with a lot of other fan favorites, then it would be a classic along with the rest. The anime honestly has the vibe of a Toonami anime that you're watching at your grandma's house while staying up too late. And with how creative the story is with how it plays out, I'm honestly still shocked more people don't talk about it even with the lack of availability. Even Akagi, an anime just as obscure but about mahjong, has a bigger community than Phi Brain does along with its own subreddit, which Phi Brain does not have. Obviously having a subreddit isn't the defining factor for something if it has a fan base or not, but I really couldn't find find anything outside of Reddit for the most part either. Hopefully more people end up watching this anime though, because it's really well made and unique without being too stereotypical at any point. The anime is over the top at times, but I think that stuff is funny personally. The characters and adventures you see in this anime are all really fun and well made, and the overarching story is also surprisingly good. I thought the first 2 seasons were really good, but the 3rd season, even though it's not dubbed, is the best one and an amazing ending to the anime, which is more than you could say about some of the other puzzle animes, right? Anyway, I hope you all liked this video. I wasn't originally going to make this video, but this Twitter poll told me to make an anime video, and I actually just finished watching the anime and was genuinely surprised with how good it was and with the lack of fan base. But I really hope you guys all watch the animes yourself, and if it's not on Crunchyroll, I'm sure you could pirate it at
smoking the cactus. Rest in peace, that's wrong, we don't forget shit. Bitch, motherfucker.